I got to spend 4 hours with a vampire who has 30 days to fix his life and save his family in a debut game from a brand new studio built by ex-Witcher 3 devs. That's either the best pitch in gaming right now or the highest bar anyone's set for themselves in years. So, is the Blood of Dawnwalker breaking new ground? Let's talk about it.
Monster!
So back in June, I was invited by Bandai Namco to test out the Blood of Dawnwalker. I was already curious about the game because of the 30-day time mechanic and I wanted to learn more, so of course I jumped at the opportunity. I played the game on PC for about 4 hours in total on a custom beta build that was made specifically for the preview. It had the game's prologue and a small section of the open world map available with some changes to the availability of quests and decisions that you could make. Now the footage you're going to be seeing is all B-roll provided by the devs because we weren't able to record our own gameplay, and if I'm honest, that seemed like a little bit of a red flag to me. I was expecting lots of bugs, or maybe the game didn't look anywhere near what was presented in trailers, but thankfully that wasn't the case. I personally didn't experience any bugs or issues while I was playing, and the game looked and ran genuinely great. We also had a choice between using a keyboard and mouse or controller to play with, and I chose controller because for me it feels way more comfier for these types of games. The game is set somewhere in the Carpathian Mountains in the 14th century, in a land that's torn apart by constant wars and the Black Plague. In come a group of vampires who decides it's their land now and they rule over the people, demanding absolute obedience and blood sacrifices in return for curing the plague. You play as Coen. He's handsome, he's young, and he's complicated. And during the events of the prologue, he gets turned into a Dawnwalker, a creature that is still human by day, but vampire by night with all the strengths and weaknesses of both. His village torn apart and family kidnapped by Brensis, the leader of the vampires, Coen has 30 days to come to terms with his new abilities and rescue his family, or what's left of them. Now this is a game where your choices are supposed to influence how the story progresses, and there are different paths depending on the decisions you make. And we do see that in the prologue. I was in a room with 3 others and we all took different paths through the start, doing different side quests, making different dialogue choices, and while the prologue is leading to a specific main event, we all ended up with different cutscenes. I'm really trying not to spoil the story here because I think it is good and you should experience it yourself, but different things happen to different people in this main scene depending on the choices you made leading up to it, and my group enjoyed watching each other's cutscenes to see how they differed. Obviously, because it was a prologue, the choices aren't hugely game-changing. The game still needs Coen to turn into a Dawnwalker and his family to be taken in order for the main story to kick off. So it's hard at the moment with what I played to say just how consequential your choices in the game will be.
Know what we should pick today. How about Petronius? An interesting fellow, this one.
Combat in the Blood of Dawnwalker actually feels genuinely fluid and fun, and you get to choose from 2 different styles that you can change at any time. There's a directional mode that lets you have full control over hitting and blocking your opponents from 4 directions: top, down, left, and right. This is the mode that I used when playing. It reminded me a lot of the combat from Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, although significantly less janky, and it flows quite well on the controller. This mode has indicators that will let you know where your enemies are attacking from, so you can quickly adjust direction for your block, and it also helps you time your blocks to achieve perfect parries. The devs said you could also turn the indicators off if you wanted more of a challenge and for you to have to base your directions off of enemy movements. The second option for combat is Omni Attack and Omni Block. Basically, you can just hit your attack and block buttons and it will automatically hit and block regardless of direction, which is great for accessibility and also for anyone wanting to focus more on the story with faster and easier to pick up combat. Now, because Coen is a Dawnwalker, he has 2 different combat styles depending on the time. During the day, he will use weapons like swords, and at night, as his vampire powers come out, he can use his claws and even drink the blood of his enemies to gain some health back. And because of his transformations, you also get to select different loadouts for Coen for day and night, which is actually super handy because some of the accessories like amulets and rings and things have different modifiers that work better with his vampire traits and vice versa. Coen also has abilities that he can use during combat that help give him an edge, and you can swap them in and out of your loadout as you learn more. They're also different depending on what form he's currently in, and as you progress and level up, you put points into different trees that help you get better and unlock new skills for both Coen's human and vampire movesets. Something that stuck out to me that's kind of like a little bit of an attention to detail type of thing is if you're playing at night and in combat and still using a sword rather than Coen's claws, his animations and moveset actually change. Like he'll disappear into shadows in between swings of the sword and things like that that set it apart from day and night.
ghost there. It's him. Oh, shit.
Now, thankfully, the day-night cycle doesn't just affect Coen's combat styles. While he's in vampire mode, he actually has different traversal abilities, he can drain wildlife to get some health back, and NPCs actually react to him quite differently. So there's also a bunch of different dialogue options and a hunger level to manage. So during conversations, Coen has the ability to just snap and kill the NPC, even if they're his friends. But if he's hungry, losing control is no longer an option and he will kill them automatically. The level of his hunger is determined by the segments of his health bar, so it's definitely something to keep in mind if you don't want to accidentally murder all your friends. Or maybe you do, and I think that's pretty cool. I think it's a pretty neat feature that adds to the horror of his new Dawnwalker condition and hopefully adds to making the game feel like your choices really do matter. By the end of the prologue, Coen also learns some witchcraft, so I promise it's not boring normie time during the day.
As Princess told us to expect you and to collect you as soon as you emerged.
Collect me? Oh, I don't think so.
Alright, so let's talk about the big time mechanic. The 30 days to save your family. It was the concept I was most curious about, and it's also the one I've received the most questions about from my community. How does it work? Does time just progress on its own? What happens if you don't make it in 30 days? Does the game just end in a failed state? I'll admit, I was a little concerned by it. I like RPGs, so the Blood of Dawnwalker already seemed like a game that would be right up my alley, but I also have ADHD, so I get distracted a lot. I stream and I end up chatting too, so I was worried that the time pressure would be too much and I wouldn't be able to enjoy it without feeling the anxiety to hit deadlines. So I was pleasantly surprised to see how it actually works in the game. So no, time does not just continually progress. It's not something that runs on in the background while you're off exploring the map. It progresses with specific actions, and the game will always tell you when you're choosing to do something that will pass the time. The time you have each day is shown on screen and split up into, I believe, 8 segments for both day and night. Performing key parts of quests and side quests will progress time, but it has an indicator to show you how much time you'll be spending to complete that action. So it's nowhere near as stressful as I imagined it might be, but it still does add a bit of tension. In a good way though. You won't have time to do everything you come across. Even in the prologue, there were more quests available to us than what we had time for, so you need to decide what you want to focus on, and those decisions lead to in-game consequences. You really won't be able to do everything in one run of the game, and hopefully it means that each playthrough will be different. I already mentioned how decisions on what quests we focus on led to differences in the major cutscene for the prologue, and it's this kind of decision making that I would like to see scaled up across the full game once you head out into the open world and not bound by the necessity for a scripted start to the game. Now, as for the 30 days, the devs did say that you can continue to play afterwards. It is 30 days to save your family, after all, and maybe you've decided that you don't like your family. Maybe you've decided to let them succumb to their fates at the hands of the vampires. Maybe you're on a revenge mission rather than a rescue mission. The choice is yours.
Thank you for not smacking me.
Don't speak too soon.
There is an issue I would like to flag though. As Coen levels up, he gains skill points to spend on unlocking and upgrading abilities across a number of skill trees. In order to invest points into those skills, you need to spend time at a shrine, which eats your time, which seems fine thematically. I mean, it takes time to learn new skills and focus on personal improvement, but it's not the act of praying at a shrine that costs the time. It is actually the act of unlocking a skill that costs sometimes more than 1 bar of time at a time. I wish I had a different word for time. By the end of the prologue, I had 6 skill points sitting there waiting to be used and no way to spend them unless I wanted to use up 6 bars of the day. And that's even before getting to higher tier skills that require multiple bars, as well as items like books you find in the world in order to unlock. Now, I understand the idea of what they're going for. Like I said, thematically, it makes sense. But in practice, it feels a little unbalanced, and I'm left wondering how many days of the 30 will actually be spent on leveling up so we can continue our quest.
Lunka? Where is everyone? Come out!
Okay, so now back to the question from the start. The Blood of Dawnwalker feels like a spiritual successor to The Witcher 3. What little I got to play of the game feels dark, gritty, oppressive, and all of that works in its favor. Given how much of the team came from CD Projekt Red, it definitely doesn't feel like a coincidence though. There's even similarity in the early quests, and of course you have a main character that is not quite human, underwent some kind of transformation, and as such lives on the fringes of humanity. Do I think it's a bad thing? Not necessarily. But I do think it will be constantly compared to The Witcher 3, and I just hope for the devs that the full game is enough for it to stand up to that level of scrutiny.
I get you!
So after 4 hours, 1 prologue, and a tiny sliver of open world, I feel like I can say I came out of it pretty excited for the Blood of Dawnwalker. I would like to see some rebalancing to the skill point time costs, but everything else genuinely felt great. The characters were interesting and well acted, the scenery was beautiful, the music was fantastic, the combat was fun and engaging, and I really like the duality of Coen, not just in combat, but in the dialogue and traversal aspects as well. I'm hopeful that the choices in game actually lead to consequences that feel, well, like consequences, and also that it adds replayability, so you want to go back and see what happens if you choose differently. I'm also keen to hear your thoughts. I definitely wasn't able to cover everything, so if there's anything that you're curious about, feel free to let me know in the comments, or even just let me know if you're excited for the game. I'll also be streaming this one on release as well, so if you want to catch that, make sure you head to twitch.tv/GalaxyAUS. Blood of Dawnwalker is coming out on September 3rd for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S.